Hello everyone. In this video, we'll learn about Pipeable operators. There are many of these operators that are available, but we'll focus on the ones that are listed here. These are the operators that I have frequently encountered or used in applications. You can find the entire list of operators in the RxJS doc. Let's head to the browser. Let's type RxJS operators. Click on the first link. You can see a list of operators that are provided by RxJS. There are different categories, and to each category, we have a list of operators. Now, it can be quite overwhelming at first, so I recommend starting with the operators that we are going to discuss in these subsequent videos. As you build applications and encounter specific problems, you can then search for the operators that best fit your use case. Now, heading to the operators list that we are going to study in the subsequent videos. So we'll begin with these operators first. Understanding these will help you to understand the other operators that are available in the docs that we just saw, right? The other thing to mention is that we did learn about the creation functions, right? The of, from event. These are also called as creation operators, okay? And while we work with the Pipeable operators, there are a few more that we may encounter. These are the few other creation operators that we are going to learn while we study the Pipeable operators. And when you build your application using RxJS, you will use it frequently. So first, let's begin by understanding what are these Pipeable operators and how to use them. Up until now, we have been working with a source which is an observable that emits certain values as the next notifications. For instance, in this example, the observable emits the values 9, 5, 2 and 4, which are then received by the observer. Any logic we wanted to apply to these values was placed inside the observer. For example, let's say we are only interested in even numbers. In that case, we would add the filtering logic within the observer, isn't it? Let's head to the VS Code and code the same. So this is our index.html file. We are using RxJS version 7 and Tailwind CSS for simple styling purpose. We have created an empty JavaScript file. It has nothing as of now, and we have referred to the same in here. If we refresh the browser, we'll see nothing in console log. So we'll close it for now. And in here, if you add a console log, let's say RxJS, we'll see the same here. Now let's create our observable. For that, we'll first import of from RxJS, const observable followed by $, and to the of function, we'll pass the same values 9, 5, 2, and 4, right? Now let's create an observer. We'll use the object scheme here. In the next, we'll just log the values, right? And let's create finally the subscription mechanism. .subscribe. We'll pass the observer. Hit save. As you can see, all the values are emitted synchronously. Next, we want to apply the filtering logic of even, right? So instead of just logging the values, here we'll add if the value is even, then only log it to the console. Hit save. We can see here only 2 and 4 satisfy the condition. Thus, they are the only values which are being logged here. Instead of applying this logic in the subscriber's next callback, we can use a Pipeable operator to handle it. In this case, the filter operator is what we need. You may be familiar with it because it's the same one that's used with JavaScript array, where you provide a condition to it and based on the provided condition, the items are being filtered. The Pipeable operators sit between your observable and observer, allowing you to process and transform the emitted values before they reach the observer. They take an observable and return another observable to which your observer then subscribes to. Now, as we go along in code, you'll get a better understanding of it. Now, in our case, right, what kind of operator we need is a filter operator. And the filter operator will be positioned between the observable and observer. The filter method, as I said, is similar to the filter method in our standard JavaScript array. Therefore, we can use our is-even logic as a condition for the filter method. What will happen is that we have our source observable which has 9, 5, 2 and 4. We will use our pipeable operator. This pipeable operator, which is the filter operator, accepts an observable, which is quite evident because the source observable is passed as an input to the filter operator. The filter operator will then apply the logic, that is whether these numbers are even or not, and based on that it will create another observable which will only have those values that satisfy the condition, which in this case are 2 and 4. It is then to this observable that our observer will subscribe and receive 2 and 4 as the next notification. So your observer doesn't directly talk to the observable now, but rather it subscribes to the modified observable. And how this observable was modified was because of the filter operator that we used here. Now let's write some code to see this in action. So this is how our app currently looks like. It just emits the values 2 and 4 based on the logic that we added to the next notification. But now we read that we do not need to add the logic in here, rather we can use an operator. Now just to let you guys know that here we are using filter operator just to understand how a pipeable operator works. We are going to study about it in later videos in much more details. So let's remove the logic from here and we'll just add the console log of the val, right? So we have all the values that are being emitted. We'll first start by importing the operator. We'll import it from the RxJS directly. Now, as I understand, I think before, probably it was RxJS version 5 or so, it had to be imported from RxJS/operators or dot operators. But right now, all the pipeable operators will have it inside directly from the RxJS. You don't need to write RxJS dot operators if you are using version 7 or so. Okay, so do cross check what version you are using and how to import the operators in that version. We are using version 7, so we don't need to write this, or if you are using import statement to write it as this, we can directly import it from the RxJS library. I'll remove it from now. We have imported the operator. Next, what we need is to use it. We know that the pipeable operator sits in between the observable and observer, right? So somewhere in here, before the subscription happens, we need to apply our operator. Now these operators cannot be applied directly. If you want to apply this operator, we have to use a function called as pipe. And this pipe method is available to all the observables. And what pipe does, it accepts the operators. Okay. Now it has to sit in between your observable and observer. You need to write dot pipe. So you provide filter. Let's go back. Filter and provide the condition here. So whatever the observable will emit as the next notification, filter will get those values, right? So that's the value. And we want to apply a condition. Our condition is that they should be even, right? Now this is how you apply a pipeable operator. You cannot directly write it as this. Okay, it's incorrect. In order to apply a pipeable operator, it needs to be applied using the pipe method. And this pipe method is available to all the observables. And the pipe method accepts the operators as its input. We are using the filter operator. The filter operator will receive the values that will be emitted by your observable, which will be 9, then 5, then 2, followed by 4. And only if they satisfy this condition, then it will be emitted to the observer. So your observer is subscribing to the modified observable because of this filter operator. Let's hit save and see it in browser. As you can see, only 2 and 4 were received by the observer in here. So we covered the basics of what an operator does, right? Or how you can apply to an observable. Now it's not that you can apply only one operator to an observable. There can be multiple. We can stack the operators. For example, let's say that after receiving the even numbers, we want to multiply each of them by 20. How you can stack the operators? It's pretty easy. And in order to have these values being multiplied by 20, we'll use the map operator. The map operator works exactly similar to the JavaScript array map. Okay, so let's start by importing it. And in here, let me just pull it down. We have the filter operator. Now, once we have all the even values, we want to multiply it by 20. In order to do that, we'll use map. So just write map. Now, whatever values will be emitted by the filter operator will act as an input to your map operator. So map will receive 2 and 4 and not the entire values. Okay. Do understand the chaining here. It was your source observable, right? Where we have the values 9, 5, 2 and 4. Once you applied the filter operator, what you will get is 2 and 4. Now these values, right? Now we know filter operator accepts an observable, not filter operator, but any pipeable operator accept an observable as an input and returns another observable, right? So for the filter operator, the input is the source observable and the modified observable is these values 2 and 4. Now these modified observable acts as an input to your map operator. So map will receive these 2 and 4 as the next notification. And to this value, what we'll do is we'll just multiply it by 20. Now whatever map will emit, which will be 20 and 40, that will be collected by your observer. This is called as chaining of operators or stacking of operators inside or using pipe method. Okay, you just have to separate the operators by comma. That's all. Hit save. Now you can see that the values that are being received by the observer are not only modified by filter but also by the map operator. The other thing to note here is that the pipe method applies these operators in sequence. So the order is important here, right? What I'll do is I'll move this map operator before filter, right? Now, what do you think will be emitted? Let's try to figure it out. Now from the source observable, we'll get 9, 5, 2 and 4. It will come to the map operator. What map will do is, what values is it receiving as an input is 9, 5, 2 and 4, right? So let's write input is 9, 5, 2 and 4, right? And I'm just writing it here for clear. Yeah. Now, what do you think the output of it will be? Each of the values will be multiplied by 20, right? So it will be 9 into 20, 180, then 5 into 20, 100, 2 into 20, 40 and 80. These output, right, will now become input to the filter operator. Map took the input as the source observable, output as this modified stream. Now this modified stream will be the input to the filter operator. Now if you hit save, you can see all the values will be emitted. So be careful of how you're using the operators. The order is very important when you add it to any input observable. Finally, the other thing to note that is, remember that applying these operators does not change the source observable itself. In our example, another observer can subscribe to the original source observable and receive the unmodified values. What I meant is, this is our source observable, right? And what I'll do is observable.subscribe, and in the next callback, let's just log the values. I'll just write it observable2 so that it's a bit obvious, and in the val, right? Just add a log here to separate it. Okay, log, just a separation, that's all. Hit save. Now you can see the modified values are logged first, which was this one. Then we had another observer that subscribes to our original observable and it receives the values unmodified. So do remember, applying these operators will never change the input observable itself. To summarize, Pipeable operators enable us to transform, manipulate or filter the values emitted by the source observable before they reach our observer. These operators will accept an observable as an input and return a new observable without affecting the original one. And you can apply these operators using the pipe method, which allows you to chain multiple operators together. As we saw in our example, it's just not the filter operator that we applied to it. We can also apply map operator and modify the values further. The filter operator or the map operator that we learned are just the basic operators. There are many other operators available that can help with more complex problem solving. As we continue coding, we'll explore these operators and learn how they can be used to address various challenges. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Until then, happy coding.